mental health featuring PTSD, SLP. Hey everyone, I'm Maria.
I'm Deb.
And here's our podcast.
What's it called?
SLP's Wine and Cheese.
Yes, thanks for listening, everyone.
Yeah,
and if you
switched
could
it up,
just
you know.
take the time to just review us on iTunes, we would really, really appreciate that. Maria, how would it make you feel if somebody would review us on iTunes?
Oh, I would love it. And it really just sparks joy.
Yeah,
And
I would be thrilled.
Do you know, I didn't get to tell you this. I'm glad I'm going to tell you right now on air. When we were reading MEG or Meg's review, that was Gail.
Oh,
that was
thanks,
Gail's
Gail.
review. So thank you, Gail.
Thanks, Gail.
Yeah, she texted me. She was like, that was my review. I was like, oh, I had no idea. So
Wonderful.
yeah, we'll shout you out for your great review.
Thanks, Gail.
You know what else is great?
Mhm.
This wine. And,
Yes.
you know, our listeners know we've spoken about this wine before. It is bread and butter, a Pinot Noir, and it's a 2017, which, you know, I'm thinking it was a good year. You know,
Yeah,
why
sounds
not?
like a good year.
Napa, California. That always sounds fancy.
Yeah.
Classically styled Pinot Noir grown in California and crafted to be enjoyed with good food and company. And, I mean, I'm just going to toot my own horn here. I made some chicken today.
Yes, thank you. I
Yes.
was very
What did you
hungry.
think of my chicken?
I thought it was very good. It was moist. It was flavorful.
Yes. I think the
yes.
key is to marinade.
Mhm.
And then whatever I had, I just threw it in the marinade. And I poked a lot of holes in it.
That's good.
And I use scissors because I don't like to touch chicken. I have like sensory issues.
Uh-huh.
I'm like, you know.
Makes sense.
Yes. I use the kitchen shears, and I cut a lot of it into strips and made them thinner because I don't have the thing that you bang with
The
it.
hammer.
The hammer thing. Do you need that?
I mean,
Do you have
I
that?
slice it, but my
slice.
dad does beat the chicken. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of like home type of stuff, we want to talk about gardening, right?
Yeah.
And
Or
plants.
houseplants.
Or houseplants or, you know, all the above.
Yes.
So Deb, I feel like you're like expert level into this and I'm like beginner. So I don't know like who should go first here. You know?
Would you want to go first?
Okay, yeah. Well, you know, living here in an apartment, where we are right now, I'm
very
like
nice.
ready to get some plants, you know?
Okay, cool.
So we started with the beginner plant here is the polythos kind of plant.
Is it pathos?
Is it pathos? I should know the exact name of it, but it's polythos.
Well, pathos is one of my favorite plants, and it's on my list. And I do think I know your plants, and I'm pretty sure it's a pathos plant.
Oh, the one that you saw in the bathroom?
Mm-hmm.
In the bathroom. Maybe in the bathroom. Put them in the bathroom. Put it in the bathroom.
Yeah.
Yes, that was our first plant. Actually, technically, let me go back. I have little moss balls, right? So I went to this gardening store upstate, and it was so cute. You know, like always check out local gardening stores. That's what I'm going to add that to my tip because we want to give 3 tips for gardening.
Oh, okay.
Check out local nurseries, they're called.
Yes.
Fun vocabulary word I also learned.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, for everyone who's maybe in the beginner stages here, nurseries are not what you might think for kids.
Right,
They're
no.
for plants.
Mm-hmm.
So check them out. Just walk right in, talk to the people. I feel like in my experience, the 2 I've gone to, only 2 so far,
Right.
everyone's so nice in there because I feel like you're just passionate about plants.
Are they out of town?
Yes.
So Maria lives in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, which I'm rather familiar with because I used to live here. Actually, I lived in the neighborhood next to this one.
Yes.
And there's a nursery actually on 3rd Avenue.
Okay.
No, 5th Avenue. 5th
okay.
Avenue.
Not the one around here, I'm thinking.
It's 5th Avenue and like 83rd Street or between 83rd
So
and 84th.
Bay Ridge.
In Bay Ridge.
Brooklyn.
And this woman wants to know what is your intention with her plan before you leave that place. Like she is not interested in your endeavor.
Right.
She is no. She wants to know like where is the plant going? What's your level of experience? Like what is your apartment lighting situation? Like She is not interested, and she won't sell you a plant if she doesn't think you're suitable.
I'm not going to go there.
Well, you should. It's very good. I like how abusive people are in South Brooklyn.
Wow.
There's also
check
a
it out
pizza place where they like just insult you.
Totonos.
Like in Coney Island.
You didn't hear. We didn't say that out loud.
Yeah.
Beep, edit that.
That's okay. Go. Get abused. The woman's great. I love it. One time Mike got a soda from the fridge and she said, "Who told you to get that?" Mike's like, "No one."
She was okay with us when we went.
She must have been tired that day.
She must have been tired. It was a Sunday. She probably had a long week, you know.
Well, sometimes they don't. They're only open Thursday to Sunday, and sometimes they don't even open on Thursday.
Oh,
they're
okay.
Like, never mind.
Never mind.
I think they're like a money laundering front that just happened to get good at pizza, and now they're just so annoyed that they there's like this demand. They wish they could just be like in a quiet little corner
pizza place. Meanwhile, there's a wait outside.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we digress. Anywho, my first starter plant, gateway plant here, was these moss balls. So you literally just have them in a jar and they float around in the water and you just change the water. And
it
eventually,
looks like a fish tank.
Yes, it's not, but there's no fish in there, and they're just moss balls and they just float around. So anyone, you just want something like nice on your desk or something, just Google like moss balls and you could sure buy them online. So those are great. Those are great starter ones. And then the pathos. Am I saying it
just
right?
Pathos.
Why am I saying pathos?
I don't know. You're trying to make it Greek.
Not
everything's Greek, Maria.
It is though, but the pathos plant is good because it grows like down like a vine, and then you could like kind of like manipulate it.
This is your actual plant. It's a golden pathos.
That's it. Yes.
Yeah.
And I've seen that if you leave it in the bathroom, it can get like little little water droplets on it that absorbs from the shower. So you don't have to water it it doesn't require that much water anyway.
No.
But it'll take the water and the moisture from the shower. So that's great. And then you just have life in your bathroom.
Yeah.
And I read on this Pinterest article that having plants in the bathroom is very nice. It gives it that spa-like feeling, So I'm all about that. And then
I'd have to have a full shade one in mine because you have a window. I don't.
Yes.
Yeah.
But it's like not a good window. It's not like a high window.
I was hoping so because I was using your bathroom and I saw the window was open. I was like, is this an alley window? What kind of window is this?
Right. Yeah. It's not a typical window. And then my third plant that I really want to get now is a lavender plant, but also a snake plant. So I just combined those two.
Those are good. So I have a snake plant.
Yeah. So you tell us about your expert level snake plantness.
I wouldn't call myself an expert because I don't know that many facts. Like I couldn't answer so many questions.
Okay.
Lots of things that I do with plants is based off like looking at them and touching them. And so what I do have to say is that I love lavender as well. I love lavender scent and I love lavender color. I've never successfully grown and maintained lavender.
Really? You're crushing me now.
Yeah, they love full sun, which is very difficult to achieve in Brooklyn, especially you live in a lower level apartment.
Yes.
I couldn't even keep it alive in my backyard because my backyard has such big trees that I don't get full sun.
Wow.
I'm going to try this summer to put it in my front yard in a pot. And you plant lavender by your gate for luck. That's that's like, a myth and stuff, but you need full sun and you need very good drainage. So you need to water that plant very deeply and then it needs to be able to drain all the way through. So like it can't have any pooling liquid staying in the soil, but all the soil has to be moistened.
Wow.
Yeah. So lavender is not easy.
Yeah. That's probably why it smells so good,
Yeah.
It took so hard to get there.
Mm-hmm.
What about the snake plant then?
The snake plant you cannot kill. That's
yes.
You can also like if you don't have an app and if you don't have like access to like some sort of stick inside the plant wherever you're buying it and it doesn't give you information.
Like someone's not abusing you when you're going to buy it.
Right. Yeah. Like if that person's not interrogating you.
Right.
What I found is that if you touch a leaf and it's like very thick and hard, like it probably doesn't need that much sun or water. It's like a very hardy plant.
Yeah, because it holds the moisture,
Yeah,
I guess. And the
Um,
sunlight,
mm-hmm.
it holds everything in.
But I've kept my snake plants by the window. Right now they're in my office on the ground, and they're doing fine. They're doing well. So that's not a bad plant to get. And you could have several in this apartment and do well with that.
Yes.
Um,
Thank you. That's my next plant.
Good.
I'm on a mission.
But my favorite plant.
Yes, so expert level now.
So I'm not really. So
I feel like you are.
I'll tell you 3 plants I like, which one
Okay.
is the pathos, which you already know. And that's actually a symbol of happiness.
I didn't know that.
And it thrives in full or partial shade. So that's why it's a great plant. It's quite easy to maintain. If I touch the soil and it's moist, I leave it alone. If I touch the soil and it's dry, but I feel the leaves and they look nice, then I'll water it like the next day.
Good rule of thumb.
Yeah.
And you spray them.
I spray them every day.
Every day.
Probably multiple times a day.
I've been nervous
everybody.
to spray them.
Why?
I don't know. I'm like, I don't want to drown them, you know?
No, you spray the leaves.
Spray the leaves. Does that do anything though?
Yeah, it makes it happy.
It does?
It's like it's mimicking rain. Don't you see when you're in the produce department and like they hose down all the plant and vegetables? Yeah.
I also talk to the
sprayed.
plants sometimes because I heard in a study that it's true that they feel the energy of the people and the positivity.
I'm sure. I don't talk to my plants, but I do in my brain. I touch them a lot.
Okay, so you're still radiating that energy.
I pay a lot of attention to my plants.
You
I think
do.
that my energy is just like physically somehow like projected onto them.
Yeah, well, if they're in your
but I
room.
don't talk to them.
Okay. Well, you might as well at this
I
point.
could. They listen to us talk probably.
There they do.
So, yeah, I spray them all the time. And if I touch the soil and it's moist, I leave it alone. If I touch it and it's dry, but the leaves look good, then I leave it for one more day. And then I water them usually like once a week on the same day. But I touch them all every day. So if something like drank more water for some reason in one, because I have a lot of self-watering pots too.
Oh, wow. So this is expert level.
I don't think so, but I don't know that much
for
about
me,
plants.
I guess.
So my favorite plants that I have are the pathos plant, which I said is a symbol of happiness.
Nice.
I love my Swiss cheese plant, even though I don't like Swiss cheese.
Interesting, but Flavia does.
Yeah. This is a great plant. It's those plants that it's got like big round leaves that have slices in them. That's why it's called like a Swiss cheese plant.
Oh.
And it likes full shade and average water. It's a great vertical standing plant. It's good in full shade, so you can have that plant here.
I'm gonna have to
put
look
it in
into
the corner
that.
right there.
Yes.
It would be happy because that like window probably gives you some light sometimes.
It does. Just move open the blinds up.
Yeah, so I would definitely recommend that. And then another plant I love is my prayer plant, which is another symbol of happiness. The legend says that the pattern on the plant was left there by an angel kissing the leaves when it comes to earth, and everyone who grows a prayer plant will live a happy life.
Whoa.
And
so Swiss cheese and prayers.
Yeah.
I can remember that.
And golden pathos.
Cheese. Yeah, and that I got it right, so I'm ready. I'm
Yeah.
excited for it to start growing like a vine. And then you could direct the vines, make it grow down like a linen closet or grow down across a window or wherever you want to put it. I don't know.
Yeah.
On a shelf, you know.
I have like probably 12 pathos plants in my house. I really like
And
them.
you direct the vines to go downward, you know?
Only like one of them so far. The rest, they're going down on their own, but one I have going across a wall.
Yeah, so you can like kind of move them around. That's cool.
The prayer plant is also great because at night the leaves go up and they look like they're praying. And during the day, they open up really wide. So during the day, like the plant's like pretty wide. And like it's got these nice green leaves with like this like leopard pattern.
Whoa!
But then at
where
night,
have I been?
It comes together like a prayer. So it's a very sweet plant, and I want more.
I haven't seen that one on Pinterest because you know Pinterest, right?
Yeah, I've
you
been
get
on that.
sucked into that. So,
you should create a wall of like partial to full shade plants.
Yes,
that's what you need to stick to.
I know.
Lavender though needs full sun, well drained soil, watered deeply and infrequently.
So, but you know me, I gotta try it anyway. You know,
I
gotta have to do it anyway because I'm very determined.
Yeah, you could just get dried lavender and hang it up upside down on your wall.
Or just a lavender oil and get a diffuser, which I already have. But, I got to try it. I got to think about that one. Maybe I'll just, in the meantime, get the Swiss cheese and the prayer plant.
Yes.
Take it from there.
Mm-hmm. And the snake plant. You can get that.
Great. So please hold for a quick commercial break. This episode is brought to you by Therapy Travelers. Therapy Travelers is a school staffing agency that places SLPs, PTs, OTs, school psychologists, special ed teachers, and behavioral interventionists in local and travel school districts. Their mission is to attract, empower, and retain the finest therapists so that every human can manifest their potential. Check out the show notes for more information about Therapy Travelers. This episode is brought to you by The Sensory Studio. The Sensory Studio is a pediatric private practice with 2 convenient locations in Staten Island, New York. Traditionally, The Sensory Studio offers school, center, and home-based speech and occupational therapy through private medical insurance. Right now, The Sensory Studio is offering teletherapy sessions for speech and occupational therapy through a simple email link to all New Yorkers. Please email them at info@thesensorystudio.com or call 718-979-5678 to reach their parent coordinator. Also, check out the show notes for more information. And now, back to the show. Hey everyone, it's Maria Kutsonis here, and I am sitting virtually with the one and only Rachel Archambault, or you may know her from her Instagram handle, PTSD SLP. Say hello, Rachel.
Hi, Maria. How are you?
I'm great. Just relaxing on this Tuesday night. How are you?
I'm good. Also relaxing. Now my dog is under my feet and we're just chilling.
Sounds great. I love dogs. I have a dog too. So before we talk more about you and your background and your story, let's talk about what we're drinking. So I have this Health Aid kombucha. It's a bubbly probiotic tea, and it's the flavor of Pink Lady Apple. And it's super healthy for you. There's like live culture of yeast and bacteria, which is very good. And I'm all about the health stuff. And this whole month of March, I'm not drinking any alcohol, just as like to give my liver a break. And I paired it with this Plymouth cheese, and it's a peppercorn cheese. It's very fancy. I got it from Vermont, and it was rumored to be one of Oprah's top cheese picks. So when I heard that, I was like, give me this. Just bring it on down, Just going to eat all the cheese.
So
it is very good. So I definitely vote drink it for this cheese. And for this tea. I don't know what's going on with me. See, this is why I need to take a break from alcohol. Perhaps it's
okay. It's Tuesday night brain. That's what it is.
I don't even know what's going on, man. But I vote drink the tea, eat the cheese. So how about you? What are you drinking? Are you eating anything? Tell us.
I am drinking Oak Leaf Vineyard Sauvignon Blanc straight from the bottle.
I saw that. Very, very badass, I might add.
Thank you. And then I have some like burrata cheese pearls. I've been really into that. Some people at work are on this keto diet, and they gave me one of those, and I've just been like popping them like M&Ms. It's amazing.
Wow. So they're just like little balls of cheese.
Yes. It's little mozzarella, tiny pearls, they call them. And It's delicious. It's like easy snacking cheese. I could eat the whole thing.
Yeah. So how do you feel about this keto diet?
I tried it for like a month just because I like to see what it is. And I did really well on it. I'm such a foodie. I wouldn't like to be on it long term. I'm not a fan of restrictive diets like that, and I feel like it is very restrictive. But I have food trucks downstairs from my house 2 weekends a month, so I can't resist like a downstairs or like tacos. So I tried it. I respect it, but I'm not into it.
not for you. I think that's great that you're the type of person that is like, all right, let's see what the hype is all about. And then instead of just like someone like me, I'm like, I can't do that. I can't cut out carbs for that long, but you actually gave it a try.
Yeah, so I'm glad that I got to try it, because now I can't like put down anyone else. Like, I mad respect for anyone that can keep that going, because it is really difficult. When someone walks by me with a slice of cake, I want to steal it from them. But
Right.
um, it's good, and I've seen results. I've seen my coworkers lose like 50 pounds more than that, and it's amazing. So if it works for you, good for you. But I don't need it right now.
Yes. Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Because I don't think you have 50 pounds to lose, because I've met you in person and
Yes.
I don't think you have that much extra weight, if any
Definitely
extra weight at all. So,
no, I should
but
not.
it's not even about the weight. I know that a lot of people do for health reasons too. Like
Yeah.
someone I know who's very thin. Actually, I'm going to throw her out there. Katie, our OT on that we had on our episodes. She did it, and it actually like lowered her cholesterol too. So like
Yeah.
for that reason, that sounds great. So that's why it's working for her. But everybody is different.
Yeah, I know someone with arthritis that it really helped their symptoms, and they didn't have as much inflammation. And for him, I totally understand doing it. So I'm happy for him, but I
Listen,
like my carbs.
I hear you. Let's get a cheers to carbs, but also healthy eating. Can
Cheers.
we sneak both in there? All right, I'm gonna have tea while you drink from the bottle. Rachel, as she takes that sip, I'm like impressed.
This is actually laziness that I can't
Okay.
go get a glass, but
Yeah. But you're saving the environment, right? One less water to
yes,
wash the cup. Good for
exactly.
you. So, Rachel, tell us about you, where you went to undergrad, grad school, where you working. Oh, wait, sorry. Sink it or drink your wine?
I drink it. I like it. It's light. It's refreshing.
Mm-hmm.
It's good.
Yes. So, are you a white wine or a red wine drinker? Or does it
White
matter?
wine, and I think that's just because I like my drinks cold, and I feel like red wine comes not cold, so I don't give it a chance. If it's at the table, I'll drink it. But I'm actually more of a beer person.
Oh, yes. You talked about that.
Yes.
Yes. So, you don't have beer today, though, but that's
No,
okay.
I had a Bud Light in the fridge, and I was like, no, I can't do that. I'd like to be more fancy, yet I'm drinking from the bottle. So
Agreed. Good choice. Solid choice.
thank
Awesome.
you.
So tell us about your background and how you got into speech and all that fun stuff. I'm very curious to know.
So I am a two-time grad of University of Central Florida in Orlando, which is right where I met you at Asha. And
Yes.
um, that was the first time I'd been up to Orlando since I graduated, pretty much. So it was nice being back there. I was there for a little bit under 6 years total. Um,
What's the
yeah,
name of the university one more time? Because I think you got a little like voice issues with this audio quality.
University of Central Florida.
Got it. You went there for undergrad and grad school, Central Florida?
Yes, yes.
Okay, cool. And then, so now where are you working?
I am at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and it's my 4th year there.
Okay. All right. So you're still fairly new to the field, I would say.
Yeah, for sure.
Right. Okay. So tell us about your school and how it's really developed your interest, right? Which explains like your Instagram handle.
Definitely. It was kind of something that I was thrown into. I wouldn't say that I've ever had like a passion before, but this has become a passion out of necessity. Um, so, for those of you that are unfamiliar, I work at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School in Parkland, Florida, and that had the mass shooting on Valentine's Day 2018. And so it just was the 2-year anniversary last month.
Yes.
So really what happened was, like, although we've had school shootings for the last 20 years, or when Columbine was, um, everyone says there is no rule book for it, but there really should be some sort of rule book to tell us what happens when this goes down. And we were just really unprepared for everything that happened after. We did have Paula Reed, who was a teacher at Columbine High School, come and talk to us, and she was able to predict everything that was going to happen to us.
Oh my goodness. I have goosebumps right now.
Yeah. And I remember talking to you about this at ASHA, and you were just so focused in on me, and like, I really appreciate that. And
of course, I think your story was incredible that you, I mean, not only like lived to tell the story, you know, but that like this is like safety, this is life, this is as an SLP who works in a school, and you hear about school shootings and you're like horrified that this is even happening, let alone happening in a school where kids go to be safe. And now you're like, oh my God, it's like you've lived through that. So if you could just, if you don't, as much as you want to say, if you could like walk us through that day on 2 years ago on Valentine's Day, the day of that. Sure.
So we start at 7:40 in the morning. That's when the day starts. We actually had a staff meeting before school that day to talk about an upcoming code red drill, which is active shooter or something like that. The principal that was talking to us was saying that it was going to sound very lifelike. So we needed to be prepared for that. And we were like, all right. At 9:30 that day, we had a planned fire drill. So the fire, you know, working in schools, it's just like a routine. You walk out there, you do it. Everyone is annoyed. It interrupts your lessons, everything. So we walked out there. The Winter Olympics were going on, so I was streaming that for my high schoolers all day. We're Floridians, so a lot of them have never seen snow, and they didn't know any of those things. It was a great discussion. At right around 2:19, at the end of the day, we end the school day at 2:40. The fire alarm went off again. At that time, I had one student and another teacher in the room with me. And the fire alarm went off, and I looked at them. They both gave me an eye roll, and I was like, let's go, move it outside. And we have sort of like an indoor-outdoor school that my door opens to the outside, and I have to go down a flight of stairs. When I opened the door, none of our security was in the places, their posts. No one was in the right spot. So I was like, all right, this is a little weird, but we had just had the meeting that morning that I was like, kind of prepared for this. And then I heard gunshots. So
and at that moment when you heard like the gunshots, like, are you like, is that a gunshot, or is that like did you even like register that was a gunshot, or you just registered like that was a loud noise? What was that?
I knew it was a gunshot. I didn't know if it was real or fake, because I know that the track coach had like a blank gun to start.
Oh my goodness.
So they told us it was going to sound lifelike, and I was like, that's it. That's the lifelike sound. And when I was getting together all my context clues of what was going on, and I saw that security wasn't where they needed to be, and I looked over and I saw some stuff by the building, I immediately knew that this was a real situation. People were running. I grabbed my girl's backpack. I threw her back in my room. The other teacher went running to go let other kids in, because our instructions are to lock them out, because we don't know who the assailant is.
Right. So that's like a hard lockdown drill.
Yes.
Right.
So
okay.
I go back into the room, me and the other student. That teacher comes back with 2 random kids I don't know. So that was about 2:21. I was in my office until 5:30.
Oh my gosh.
And being an SLP, you know, we're always stuck in these little closets. So my room was probably, I don't even know the measurements of it because I'm not a math person.
Right.
But it was a security office meant for like one person. And I would fit maybe 4 kids in there for a session. And these are big high school boys, you know.
Right.
So it was a very limited space, and I had huge windows. So the plate above the room said security, and I don't think that they were looking to evacuate that room. I'm not sure if they knew anyone was in there, but we were in there for a really long time. Thankfully, all of us were safe. And it wasn't until after I mean, the night of up into the next like 3 days, we were still finding out who were the injured people, who were the deceased, and 3 teachers died, and the rest of the 17 were students. So it was it was the worst day of my life. Yes. But it's also become such a passion of mine to talk about how SLPs need to be aware, because my situation was so different from many of the teachers who had up to 60 kids in a room, and I had 3, you know.
I can't imagine like just how anyone was feeling that day. I just like can't even imagine that. And the fact that you like had your room and you were safe in that room, like who came and found you guys at 5:30? Like,
the police
scared
officer,
when you heard that knock? Like, did they, you know, I'm just like putting myself in that position. I don't know if this is hard to talk about.
No, it's
or
not.
Okay.
I'm actually like super comfortable with it, and I like to present on this. I want to have SLPs especially hear this, because I think they think, oh, well, there's none of us, when reality now I have a group chat of like 4 of us that have been through this.
My God.
So we support each other on hard times and in good times. And the police, there were so many squads that came out, and they knocked on my door for the second time because we stayed silent. So they just they went to
yeah.
But then I saw everyone else being evacuated, and I actually had another teacher text me and say, "Where are you?"
Okay.
And she had been evacuated immediately. Like the fire alarm went off, so half of the school that didn't hear anything left for what they thought was a fire drill. Right. Then there were the other people involved that were stuck in the rooms. Mm-hmm. So that teacher, I credit Miss Briggs for getting me out, because she told an administrator who told a police officer, who then sent a squad like 10 minutes later maybe, and they got me out. Thankfully,
right, you didn't spend more time in there because
no.
Oh my gosh, and what a relief, right, when you see like a police officer there. And so that was
I think I was in shock, honestly. I didn't feel I know that I'm calm now in stressful situations. I always thought I would be, or I did for any other stressful situations that couldn't even compare to this. But in that situation, I also became like the responsible person. And it wasn't until the morning after that I was just sitting at breakfast completely numb that I just started crying for I didn't know why. And
it's that finally it sunk in and you process what just happened and what you just endured, and your coworkers and the students you work with, and just a tragic event.
Yeah.
So, wow, thank you so very much for sharing that. And I really appreciate your honesty and like you coming and like talking about this on air. I don't think it's an easy thing to do. So I really like cheers to you on that. Just to add some funness. My tea is empty. I'm going to refill my tea. So then you were saying a speaker came. What I didn't catch, I don't recall her name. I had too much tea already. Who was able to predict what would have happened, and I just can't believe that.
Yeah, it was more like she was a teacher at Columbine, and she said in the year after, they're going to, it's going to become very political. It's going to be this, it's going to be this. And we were like, no, it'll be fine. And then all of a sudden it became highly political. Like you see now the Parkland kids, there's very divided views about, those kids shouldn't be talking, they're too traumatized. Or they say, wow, those kids are so amazing, they're the best. And depending on their political views, they feel one way or another. And that is the hardest part about working there.
The media still is, especially now with the anniversary. Was there more like media coverage?
There was that day, but thankfully in the past year, it really hasn't been a problem. For a while it was, and the community thankfully reached out and was like, guys, stop.
Oh, good.
You need to stop doing.
Yeah. That's rough. Just like, because on top of everything you got, everyone involved went through, then you have like interview. I mean, of course this is an interview too, but being hounded, right, where kids are just want to go to school, and that's like where kids go, I think, sometimes to escape might be like what might be going on at home, and school should be like that safe place, you know?
Yeah. It was also very triggering to drive into work to see the news trucks parked outside. That would immediately
Right.
like send teachers and students back. For me, I wasn't triggered by that. I was just like, ugh, get out of here. But other people got into that feeling of that day or that time after, and it was too much. And it was hard to learn and teach when that was going on.
Absolutely. So you went back to, so what happened like the next day? Was the school closed the next day?
We students were out of school for 2 weeks.
Okay.
Staff was out for a week and a half. We came back a little bit early to get reintroduced. We had an open house to get all the students back on campus in like a comfortable way with their parents.
Mm-hmm.
And honestly, for the rest of that year, that we came back the beginning of March to the beginning of June, there was very minimal academics going on. And that was some classes were coloring, some were dealing with being back on campus and had beanbag chairs, and just it was about reacclimating. And then some were back to here's an AP class and we have a test to do, and it's high school, and there needed to be some sort of balance to that, but it depended on what the teacher was able to do, what the students were able to do, and you're not going to please everyone. That's one of the biggest things that I learned, is no matter what you do, you can't please everyone.
Yeah, absolutely. That goes for anything, but especially this instance. And everyone has a different reaction. And, you know, this is grief that you're going through, that of the students that deceased, but even just like grief counts that anytime. I actually am in like a grief support group, and grief actually is an emotion, and it's something society is not very equipped to deal with, right? We know about like being happy and like being sad and being mad, but like grief is that emotion where we just like don't know what to say when someone passes away, or we just like, we might say things like, oh, you know, just give it time, but that's
Yep.
not necessarily true either,
Yep.
right? I mean, you could speak to that, but anytime that your expectation is like not met, or is just like you have a grief for that. So like these kids are going to school expecting to, you know, go to school and graduate and go to prom, and then this happens. That right there is a whole shock, let
Yep.
alone, you know, one of their classmates wants to hurt them, and their
Mhm.
friends could have died, their classmates. So just there's just so much, and just
So
one
many layers.
instance.
Also, the fact that many of
Yeah.
them are high school students, or we have freshmen that are 14. You have seniors that could be like 19 years old, and they're on different wavelengths, and their parents are on different wavelengths. Get over it. You're not going to therapy. You're going to therapy. It's so different for each kid. And that was another hard part of it, is knowing what your kids needed without stepping on the lines of what the parents are telling them they can do, or how can you help each kid.
Absolutely. So then when you like, so after that event, so you had to go back to work, and you're an educator, but now you also are a human being who's also
Yep.
going through what they're going through. So how did your therapy change, which I'm assuming it did?
It did, for
Okay.
sure. And I remember seeing a little bit after on one of the SLP Facebook groups that there were wildfires in California, and someone posted, how am I supposed to care about a kid's lisp when our entire community burned down? And that was like so on point with what we were dealing with. There was, why should I care about a lisp or an R when their, friends are dead, teachers are dead, and
Right.
it's a different situation. So I really, that went out the window. And counseling, like, how can I help you? What do you need from me? Are you ready to work on, it was each kid, I gave them choices. What would you like to work on today?
Okay. So very not even really child directed, right? Because some of these are like 18-year-olds. So client directed therapy.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, so definitely client directed therapy. And then if the kid just didn't want to do anything, like they were like shut down, what did you experience that actually? Any kid who just was like, nothing, I don't want to do anything, I don't want to be here.
I had some that were like that.
Mm.
And someone donated these little bean bag things with different emotions on it. So I would give the bag to them and just let them kind of put in a row or however they wanted to organize that. And then we would discuss that after and try to get some of their goals. But that wasn't like anything that I was concerned about their vocabulary skills or anything. But that's really how I found my passion, was trauma informed education, because they think that Parkland is a very rich, very white area, that these kids must not have experienced trauma, is what you would have said to these kids before. There's nothing that these kids could have gone through because they're rich.
I have heard that before too.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, it's just like, why are we comparing whose life is more miserable? Like, why don't we all just try to move forward? But I have heard people say stuff like that. Like, oh,
right.
What do you know? And it's like, well, what do you know? You know?
Right. And it's interesting that I've heard other SLPs say that to me, like, oh, they're rich, like they're able to get these like services. And I'm like, that is very true. But also, like, many of these kids had different trauma, not just the specific trauma that happened to all of us on the same day at the same time. Their parents have divorced. That is trauma. Some do have food insecurity.
Oh gosh, and that age group is so prevalent.
Yeah, we do have free and reduced lunch, and people don't think about that when they think of Parkland. We do have students that have experienced terrible things, students with tons and tons of siblings that are taking care of those siblings, and you just don't think of that. You don't think that these kids could have anything wrong going on in their life. So that was the biggest thing to me, is I want to make sure that us as SLPs that don't know each child's background, like, we don't have a book on each of them. We don't know what they've gone through as much as you think you do, as much as you think you're a great clinician and can get things out of them. It's not up to be trauma detectives. We don't need to pull that out of them. And we just need to be their safe space, whatever they need from us at that time. And that's the trauma-informed education. And I am going to be presenting on that at the Florida ASHA thing, FLASHA.
Oh, cool.
I'm going to be talking about trauma-informed education for beginners. And that's why on the Instagram, I talk about trauma-related things. And I relate my experiences to, like, me being triggered when I feel like I'm doing fine, me being triggered out in the community, something that I have to control. And I want people to say, oh, that's a 27-year-old woman that's having trouble. Think of what the 14-year-old at that time was dealing with. I need them to relate it to me so that they can relate it to their students. And
you, like, and who better to teach this class, because, like, you went through the same trauma they did, right? Like, you were there too, and as an employee too, right? Like, this is your place of work that you thinking you're gonna go and be safe, and you want to get in there, you want to do your job, you want to be a great SLP, and then look what happens, right? And, like, the same thing with the kids. Like, they wanted to go to school and learn, and it's just, it's a tragic event. I'm so, like, I apologize that happened, that you're brave enough to share it. I feel awful that, that happens around the world and just in our country. So, just not to get political though, just to avoid that. I just, like, I don't want to talk about politics on this show. Let's talk about SLP life. So now that, like, it's still 2 years, which I think is not a long time, but now let's say how this school year is going. Do you feel like your therapy is more about, like, I don't know, like, do you still bring up the trauma? I mean, some kids may have graduated. So, like, how does your therapy look now?
So I have 2 grades left that were there that day. Yes. I have my 11th and 12th graders. My 12th graders are my babies, but they're also, I was like a 9th grader with them. That's the first year I started. So they're my first group I've had 9th through 12th. So I already had a bond with them going in, and I just allow them to pick the conversation. If you want to talk about it, fine. If you want to go to we have a wellness center on campus. So if they feel like they need to talk about it with someone else, but they understand that I know what they go through. But also being an SLP, I have a limited caseload, not in SLP terms, I've got a lot, but compared to teachers that in high school have like 200 kids. So I don't have like, I'm still meeting kids. Like there's people and there's teachers and students that have never seen me before and they don't know my story. And then they're like, how long have you worked here? 4 years. Oh, so you know what we went through, and they automatically trust me. And that's a weird bond that we have. And they're not so welcoming of new staff, new students. It's there's a split that you understand or you don't.
Right. Yeah, I could see that. So the culture of the school obviously has, of course, changed drastically from that too. And that's also, again, encompasses your job now too, because you're working in a school. So just to be aware of the culture of the school and how that can influence how your therapy looks. Right.
Yes.
So if it's a student that went through that trauma with you and they want to talk about it that day, whatever lesson plan you had that day is going to go away. Right. I'm assuming.
Yeah. It's like we work on these things when we can, but I won't ever shut them down for needing to get something out. They have so many questions and they're ESE students. Like there are sometimes that I have one student with such bad anxiety that comes in, he sees something in the news, he's got alerts on his phone that anytime our school is mentioned in the news, he comes in and he's like, what does this mean? I'm like, all right, we're going to talk about this. And you're also going to come back later for another session because we didn't get anything done today. So,
right. Yeah. Do you feel like, oh, sorry, as an SLP, you maybe in your grad school, but also like CEUs, like maybe we're not counselors. So like, do you think as SLPs, we need more counseling training?
yes. And I actually at ASHA saw the director of UCF who was there. I think my last year he came in, and I went right up to him and I was like, we need to have more mental health training. And I thought he was going to put up a fight, and he goes, you're absolutely right.
Yes. Agreed. I'll sign that.
For your time. And but yeah, as a field, I felt unprepared. I didn't think I was going to go into a school, and then I ended up in one, and then I loved it. Douglas is actually my rival high school, so I felt to the community already. But us as in grad school, there was nothing on mental health or preparing us to have those conversations, and we need to have that as a mandatory course at the very least.
Absolutely. Yes. And a lot of even like just thinking like in another sense that, we're working with clients who have communication deficits. So like they feel upset about that. They have a limited expressive language, let's say, so they can't always express themselves. So even at that point, or parents or caregivers that their loved one just had a stroke, how are we going to work with them? We can't just walk into a therapy room like, all right, this is what we're doing for speech today. Like, this is a human. I feel like I say this a lot. Like, we're human beings. Like, we're working with people. Like, we should have more training on that, right? Like how to interact. And do you feel like you did a lot of your own training outside, like your own? Do you have any resources that you found helpful?
I actually find Instagram the most helpful, and that's part of what I follow so many counselors, so you guys don't have to. I like to see what they say about trauma, like to see what they say about abuse, and just anything that we're going to come into contact with. And I'll post that as a story. I'll post that as if someone has a question between stress and trauma, I'll post it. But I also have read a lot of textbooks or books via audiobook. I love Nadine Burke Harris, who she did a TED Talk. If you're familiar with her name at all, would be probably from the TED Talk about ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. And that brought trauma into like the modern culture. And she's the first Surgeon General of California. And I think she's brilliant. She wrote a book called The Deepest Well. She's on Armchair Expert as a podcast guest. I think she's brilliant. And I love what she has to say about just as educators dealing with it, because she's a pediatrician. So they should be treating it differently than we should. We are not trauma investigators, and she makes sure to say that we're not supposed to be going in and saying like, what's wrong with you? What happened to you? We don't do that.
Right. So what do you think our role is? What is our place as an SLP?
Our
If
place
not investigators. Sorry, I air quoted investigators. I don't know why.
I think we're supposed to be that safe place and to know what to do in that place, to know how to ask questions. Active listening is the biggest thing. So instead of leading them somewhere or putting words in their mouth, we are supposed to be there to say, okay, and like encouraging them to move on. We shouldn't be talking so much. And that's hard for us as a profession, I think. But we need to be mindful about how we respond to things, and you don't know everything. That's kind of to put the brakes on.
Agreed. Yes. Like I mentioned earlier, I do like, it's a short 6-week series, but it's like a grief counseling group, short support group. And, the woman who leads the group, her name is Maria too. She said like, picture yourself when like another person is talking, like you're like a heart with ears, and you don't have to always you're a heart with ears. And you don't have to always answer, and you don't, unless you really feel the need to respond, like your biggest job is to just like sit and listen and give that. A lot of people really, they just want to be heard, and you can't like tell them how to feel, right? Like you don't want to be like, oh, so you're pissed off that there's a news camera. Like maybe they didn't say that, so maybe they said, oh, when I saw the news camera my heart sank. So you could just, I'm assuming, like you would nod and then maybe wait and see if they're going to say more.
Wait time. Yes. Wait is one of the biggest things. Saying mm-hmm or yeah. Also clarification. So you say, what I heard you say was this. Did you mean this? And then you allow them the chance to describe it instead of saying, you said this.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then there's a communication barrier there.
Wow. Okay. I'm actually, so a segment we have on the show is tips or tricks. So since I'm not, my tip or trick, I guess, will just be to picture yourself being a heart with ears. And I've only really learned this outside of my SLP life. But I think if I had a student who has gone through some trauma, or even, like they're telling me something that happened at home, right? That was a hard day for them. I want to like picture that, like I'm just here to listen and really like let them get it out. So you're saying clarification, right? That's a type of technique. Yes. Mm-hmm. So you would ask them like, oh, did you mean this? Yeah. And like wait for them to clear it up. Increase your wait time.
Yes. And we should be doing that with these special needs students as well.
Agreed.
Wait time is so important. So you need to be doing this with everyone. When you see a typical kid, don't just count them out saying they don't need wait time. Yes, they do.
Absolutely. Yes. And have you noticed like when you do pause and wait, a lot of times they might just want to talk to kind of like fill that space?
Yeah, I notice it when I'm in my therapist's office and I talk the whole time and I'm like, she's so good at active listening.
Yes. Yeah, no, it's definitely a technique, and just, you're right. It's a great effective therapy strategy to begin with, let alone a counseling strategy, right?
Right.
So wait time. It's the best tip or trick, I think.
The best.
So can you tell us a little bit more about your Instagram and where the listeners can find you?
Sure. On Instagram, I'm at ptsd.slp. And on Facebook, I have it kind of turned into more of a support group. I think it's PTSD resource for SLPs. And
PTSD resource for SLPs?
Yes. And that's more of a support group kind of thing that people post questions and they can see it in a public forum. On Instagram, if someone has a question, people aren't going to look through all the comments for something. I usually post about that and then I'll double up. I'll post whatever I post on Instagram on there. But those are the two main places. And I post a lot of stories, post a lot of memes. And like I said, I follow a lot of counselors And when I find information that they post, I love posting it and explaining it a little bit further in ways that we can understand, and ways that we can use in speech and language therapy.
I think that's like so like great of you, and so like life changing that you went through. No, it's true, because you went through something tragic. Not to bring that up again, this is the last time bringing it up, but like you are actively working on that, you know, for your own healing. But now you want to help others who could just be working with kids from trauma, right? Doesn't have to necessarily be the exact same situation that you and your students went through, but it could be something similar, and you're being a resource,
Right.
you know, and in an area that we need resources.
I think of it all the time. What happens when one of my students transfers to a school within our state, out of our state, and they get another SLP that says, oh, they're a bad kid, oh, they're ADHD, when it's really not. They're traumatized and they're triggered by something. And you need to be able to separate those differences, or think, what else could this be? And the trauma informed mantra kind of is just, you don't know everything, and just give everyone a chance.
Give everyone the benefit of the doubt, right? Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And I guess that's a lot easier said than done. So it's great that you're saying this as a verbal reminder for everyone, right? Me too, yes. Myself included. So, wow. So that was such a great episode. But just before we end, if you could end us with a quote that you like, that maybe helps you get through your day, or just anything motivational you would like to share.
Did I say you're not a trauma detective enough? Or
you could no. That could be your quote. You are not a trauma detective.
Exactly. So what I mean by that is just don't go prying into people. What happened to you? That's not what you're there for. Mm-hmm. You are there to support and help guide, and know who to go to get this to the right people.
Right. You're the same person. You're a listener, right? You're an active listener.
Yes.
That's great. And you're right, hard for SLPs, and I think just because of the nature of our field, where we're supposed to assess, right? Diagnose, treat. Yeah. We are, in a sense, an investigator with that, but yes. We have to put that on the back burner sometimes.
Yes.
And that's where I think this field requires more training, because we're operating from what our training is. Like, oh, we got to figure this out, and maybe I have to refer, maybe they need counseling, and maybe they need a dietitian for a new diet. I don't know. You're trying to figure it out, right? Solve the problem. But that's not what we're supposed to be doing in this situation.
Right. Exactly.
So I'm glad that you spelled that out for everybody nice and clearly.
Thank you.
Rachel, it's been such a pleasure. You are a plethora of knowledge. We will tag you in all the posts so everyone can follow you and learn from you. So thank you very, very much for coming on the show. Is there any last words you have before we end this great interview?
No, I appreciate you guys for having me, and I was so excited to have met you at ASHA, and I learned so much from your podcast. So I'm happy you guys have that out there, and I think you are making a difference.
Oh, thank you. Well, I just do what I do. I drink and I listen and I talk.
Exactly.
Eat, drink, talk, and listen. These are my 4 favorite things, That's all I'm doing. But thank you, Rachel. Ciao.
Bye.